Redskins Bills this Sunday at 1 p.m. Both teams are playing for the playoffs, albeit the Bills more urgently. A loss to Washington could effectively end their season, so you can expect to see a fired-up Buffalo squad taking the field in Landover this weekend. It'll be up to Jay Gruden to keep his guys fighting to maintain that number one spot in the East, because if we can survive this week, thanks to some tough matchups for Philly and New York, it could be even more under our control going into the holidays. A real Christmas miracle. Stick with us for the game preview here in the Hogstye.
It's the Hogstye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back with us today on the heels of our sweet Danny Rouillet interview. Please check that out if you haven't already. It went really awesome. But for now, let's get into some Bills game preview. My name's Sean Conti. I'm here with Alex Zeese.
Hey, how's it going? It's like I just, stopped talking to you, Sean.
It is. I was starting to feel neglected there, man. Mr. Steve Thomas is also here. Steve, welcome back.
I'm so glad to be talking football, sweet football.
Football, sweet football. Well, we got quite a yeah. It was a subtle dig. I was going to let him go with it.
I don't know. It might have been. I don't know.
I was going to let it go.
I'm very glad Danny was on the show. I'm glad you guys had fun with it. So all is well. But now we're back to what's important, which is the beautiful game of football.
Yeah, and this is an important this is a very important game for both teams. So you're not understating that at all. Again, I know I said it up top, but the Bills are going to come out swinging because their season hinges on this. They're 2 games back, so they need this win to stay up top. So I expect to see a very passionate Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy this weekend. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, I'm not sure. I know Rex Ryan doesn't like D'Angelo Hall at a minimum because we saw that little blow up on the sideline. So I'm not sure how big of a fan Rex is of our team necessarily. Yeah. So the thing about Buffalo is, I guess we might as well just get into it. Defensively, Buffalo, has a reputation that's sort of born out of the fact that Rex Ryan is the quarterback. And if you look at the names they have on their D line, Robbie mentions this in our game preview. Mario Williams, Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams, Jerry Hughes, all these great guys. But statistically, they haven't really produced. If you really look at the numbers, they've produced in one stat, which is passing yards per attempt, which means that. And their opponent's passing completion percentage is only 58.6. Yeah, those are the 2 things they do well, and so their passing yards per attempt is lower because they complete fewer passes. But other than that, this defense is kind of middle of the road all across the statistical landscape, including, oddly enough, sacks. They're terrible in sacks. They're 30th in the NFL in sacks. So this. Yeah, go ahead.
What I've noticed watching a little bit of highlight film of the Bills today, throughout the day, their defense they're not getting sacks, but they force you to get it out before you're ready a lot. Yeah. And that's how they make their turnovers happen, their interceptions. That's probably why they have a pretty good incompletion percentage there.
So they get pressure. They're just not getting to the quarterback, but they're disrupting the play, which could be just as beneficial. Yeah, and they do have some turnovers. They have 13 interceptions, which is more than we have, and that's a pretty good clip.
It's 1 plus a game still, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they're ranked 11th, so that's kind of upper middle of the pack. But nonetheless, even if passing is not our thing, I said this. Who did I just say this against? I can't remember. But this may be another get well game for our running game. Is my point. Because at least statistically, they haven't been awful, but they haven't been all that great either. They're giving up 4.2 yards per rush, which if we can get 4.2 yards per rush, I think all Redskins fans would be ecstatic. Yeah, for us, it's a good day because we're horrible at it. So if we can do that. And keep Kirk upright and keep the ball out of their hands. Yeah. At least be competitive.
It just concerns me because this whole thing that you just said, they can get pressure, they can't necessarily get sacks. That's a formula we've seen again, like all Kirk has been pretty well good in terms of general pocket awareness, not getting sacked all that much. I mean, certainly not RG3 levels of getting sacked, but he does. I mean, he gets pressure. We know what happens. So that's the concern there is if they force him to get rid of the ball a little sooner. I mean, that's where he makes his mistakes. So that does not necessarily bode well to me for this.
Yeah, and I think it's a mentality thing with Kirk.
No.
You know? I don't know where this team's head is, because they've had a little bit of success. They seem to have been in a good frame of mind recently, even with the losses. They didn't really hang their heads against Carolina. They laid an egg against Dallas, but they played well against the Bears last week on the road. I hope they don't get too comfortable. I hope that if they do get pressure on Cousins, like you're talking about, that Cousins doesn't wet the bed and start throwing the ball, all over the place, because we've seen that out of him. The bottom line for every week is this team has to run the ball better. If they're going to do anything, be it through the end of the season or God help us in the playoffs, we cannot run the ball at 2-point-something yards per clip. It has got to get better somehow, some way.
Yeah, you need to have it there so that it's a threat, so you can get to third and short, and the defense doesn't know what you're going to do. Because that's the basis of how you want to run a very efficient offense. The way we're doing it with this West Coast offense, I feel like. Yeah,
and Robbie has mentioned it. We need him to break the O-line down as always, because none of us can do it. But one of his key matchups, if you look at our game preview, which will be posted by the time you listen to this,
right?
His first key matchup. Redskins O-line versus Bills D-line. It doesn't just go to pass defense. That goes to the interior. It goes to Josh Laribas. It goes to Scherf. And it goes to Long primarily. Those three guys need to do a much better job in opening up holes for the running back. And it may be true that Morris has not seen the holes like he used to. Maybe he doesn't have his burst. Matt Jones has his issues. But if there's holes, they've proven they can hit it. Yeah. This year, they've run well when the O-line has been gashing the defensive line.
Yep.
One way or another, they've got to figure out.
I feel like our O-line is a key matchup every week. It kind of is going to go or it's not going to go based off of their ability to play on a given week.
That's kind of football.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Really and truly, it's the game is won in the trenches.
Right.
We kind of laugh at Robbie because he's so O-line centric because of his background. Right. Yeah, but he's also right. Either you have a gimmicky offense, and that's the only way you win, or you win in the trenches. It's sort of one or the other.
Well, with good teams like New England, it's both. They run the kind of gimmicky offense, but they have always had, even though they've had Tom Brady, they've always had such a good O-line around him, and that's what's made them so dangerous.
Yeah, I hate to even mention us in the same breath.
No, it was just a
but I know
point,
what you mean.
Yeah. Can I just say also real quick about the O-line? We've been kind of struggling ever since, we lost 2 interior starters.
Right.
And, I really do think that's when things started going downhill for the run game. So I honestly don't know if we'll ever see it get right this season. We got 3 games left in the year, probably, maybe 4.
Well, was it? You have to ask yourself, was it ever right? Besides those first 2 weeks, by week 3, it was starting to decline. I think we saw another flare-up, maybe once or twice, but was it ever really going at all? Or are we just looking at it through the rose-tinted glasses of the whole Thunder and Thunder thing in the offseason and then coming out to a hot start early this year? But really, it hasn't gone, the run game hasn't gone much since, ever.
No, I think you're right. And we definitely are looking through it through burgundy and gold colored glasses for sure. And we faced 2 teams that were a lot weaker than what everybody thought they would be. We thought the Dolphins with Ndamukong Suh, were going to be out of this world, and they really weren't and aren't. No. The Rams, they weren't and aren't. Right. So we had 2 good games.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's where I'm with it. I just I don't know if I'm even confident enough to say our running game can get back on. I'm not so convinced now it was ever really on a track.
I'm about at the point where I think we need to stop calling ourselves a running team. Honestly,
right?
Because we can't do it. We're not good at it. And not only are we not good at it, I have a stat for you guys because I always have stats.
Steve, just for the record, I've been saying you need to get to that point, for about a month now. So I'm glad to hear you're coming around.
We have rushed 340 attempts this year, which is 15th in the NFL, which is almost just about dead in the middle. And
just above.
Compare that to Buffalo, 395 attempts, who is third in the NFL. We'll get to Buffalo's offense in a minute, but compare a real rushing team to us.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not us. Now, unfortunately, we're not really a passing team either, just statistically, which is why we're sub 500. 'Cause we've climbed. I'll give Kirk some credit. He has gotten better.
Yeah.
I'm talking about statistically. He has. He's still a middle of the road, slightly below middle of the road quarterback, maybe. But the stats have gotten better, over the year, and it's no doubt due to look. I mean, he fits the system.
Yeah, they've built a whole offense around what he does well, which is the short passing.
That's right.
Right. Exactly right.
And that brings in a whole other thing. A thing that I would want to mention, especially in the wake of last week's game, is tight end play going into this game. What he does well is the short pass. Obviously, Jordan Reed came up huge last week. I mean, player of the game, really. And now we have this new guy, Alex Smith, who's supposedly a much better blocker. So tight ends is a position I'll be looking at this week because I think some interesting things could happen there. I'm not expecting Alex Smith to do some miracle, hole creation or something, but maybe it could help. Maybe it helps with that line play,
Well, I mean, we kind of saw it with who was it before? Carrier.
Yes.
How the second tight end is kind of used. You don't really expect him to be much of a pass threat, but he'll get one or two shots, I'm sure. Alex Smith probably doesn't know the route tree at this point, or he might because he did play for Gruden before. But let's
be honest, it's not that complicated. It's written in crayons.
Hey, I think anybody who's counting on Alex Smith to make a meaningful contribution are fooling
No,
themselves.
no.
Okay?
No
he
one's
may
saying
be
that.
a decent player.
Game that he'll
we're not, but I don't know if anybody else out there.
I hope
The man has not played this season, for goodness sakes. He may be talented. I'm glad he's on the team. Welcome
he's
to
a veteran
Washington.
presence.
But
It's kind of like the whole thing with Pierre last week. It's good. I'd rather kind of in these games have somebody who's got experience than turn to guys on the practice squad at this point in the year.
I would agree with that completely. Especially, when you're playing with meaningful games, you don't.
Right.
That might not be the time to promote a practice squad guy. He doesn't have any time to get into his groove. That's what it comes down to me this week, guys, is Redskins receivers, and I'm kind of counting tight ends in that group right now. Redskins receivers staying healthy and playing well is going to make or break this game. I don't even care about the running game anymore. I expect nothing from it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Here's the problem. Jordan Reed, I think we can all agree, is our most valuable player, at least on offense right now.
For sure.
He's our leading receiver, 67 receptions, 694 yards, 7 touchdowns. But he's only got 10.4 yards per carry, and that's per catch, rather, and that's with a couple big games. Not that that's bad, but there are players and there are tight ends out there who are way, way, way better than that in terms of yards per catch.
Right. Yeah.
It just goes to show that, we lack the playmakers.
Yes.
He's our best, and I love him. We all love him.
Yeah.
But we are outpaced in the playmaker regard by a lot of teams, including Buffalo, incidentally, who has just – we'll get to them.
Yeah.
They have a world of playmakers.
They do.
Yeah, well, Buffalo also has a very different style of offense than we have. So when we get to it, we can talk about that part too.
Well, maybe it's time we talk a little bit about this Buffalo offense, unless we missed anything major for Skins. We're so one-dimensional. Is it possible that we even missed anything on the Skins, Skins offense?
It's kind of like the same
I think we all know what the
week,
game plan is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing every week.
Well, then let's talk about something a little bit more interesting, and Mr. Tyrod Taylor and Mr. LaShawn McCoy. So Tyrod Taylor-wise, I just want to say up front, certainly over the last 2 weeks, I think it's been, maybe 3 weeks, not looking very good. In fact, in terms of completion percentage, I believe he is the bottom-ranked guy over the last just 3 weeks.
Actually, okay, because overall, the dude's having a heck of a season.
No, not overall, yeah.
He's got a quarterback rating of over 100.
Yep.
His completion percentage for the year is 63.5. He's only thrown 5 interceptions.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's the thing, to me, Tyrod Taylor is RG3 light.
I would actually disagree and say Michael Vick light, because I think his throwing style, where he goes downfield way more than RG3 did.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, maybe that's fair. Plus, they're both from Virginia Tech.
Well, and there's
there's a Virginia Tech thing there. But point is, the guy is a very uber athletic, accurate throwing quarterback. He may have had a couple bad games here and there, but this guy is dangerous.
Recently.
Yeah. He's rushed for 371 yards this year.
Right.
He's
a beast. He's good.
Buffalo, first and foremost, is a running team.
Yeah.
And
that's
they're
because
third
of
in
him.
rushing yard. Well, it's not just because
not
of him. Have you guys really looked at this?
I mean, I know they have McCoy. They have a good group of running backs. I mean, but I'm talking about kind of like what we had with RG3. When you have a quarterback who can move and run outside the pocket, it does open things up for the running game as much as the passing game.
It does.
That's what I was talking about. I didn't mean he's the running offense.
Yeah, because he opens it up. I mean, because it's not just LaShawn McCoy. They've also got Carlos Williams. Now, Carlos Williams has been hurt for the past couple games, so, he hasn't really played. But when he's been on, he has been tearing people up. I mean, this guy is averaging 5.7 yards per attempt. He had 2 gigantic games, both against the Dolphins. If he's healthy, he's on the injury report again this week it's a shoulder. I think he did not practice Wednesday. He did practice today. I don't know what that means in terms of Sunday. But when you're talking about a sort of a triple-headed hydra, in a running game of Taylor, McCoy, and Williams, if they're all healthy and rolling, that is dangerous. And that's why they're third in the NFL in rushing yards. That's why they're fourth in rushing yards per attempt. That's why they're third in the NFL in rushing yards per game.
So would you say that this is the team that pulls off the running back by committee successfully?
Yes.
Isn't that interesting to think? Why some teams can do it and others can't seem to pull it off?
They have the talent.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have the talent. I mean, we love Alfred Morris and everything, but regardless of the O-line problems, he's not really getting it done this year. These 2 guys, McCoy and Williams, along with Taylor, are doing it.
Well,
I think you're right.
Let's be honest. McCoy, for a couple of years, might have been the best running back in the league.
And he tore us up in particular.
He always tore us up. But, I mean, Adrian Peterson got a lot of the publicity over the same years, but McCoy is such a more dynamic threat when it comes to, he gets the ball, he can do crazy things with it.
Yeah.
You know what?
He also has 31 receptions, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's nothing to ignore either.
Right.
No, it's not. He's averaging 9.2 yards per reception, which is better than most of our wide receivers. Right.
Right. See, this is what I'm going to do in this game. Is I'm going to watch which situations, how they cycle these guys in and out, when they pull McCoy, when they put other people in. Something tells me it's more nuanced, and I have to admit, I have not watched many Buffalo Bills games this year, so I will be paying attention to see how a team really does this, because we seem to do it at random or ride the hot hand inappropriately.
Well,
I think they're doing it too, though, because this is a what's their record? I was about to say 5-7. They're 6-7.
They're 2 games back. That's right.
They have the same record. Yeah, they have the same record we do. They've played well. They've played badly. They've lost to the Patriots twice. They've lost to the Bengals, which was undefeated at the time. But they've been kind of hot and cold, despite all the talent. So it makes me think that they probably aren't always on. And sometimes they struggle. They probably have problems executing. Their third down conversion rate is terrible. 36.7%, which is 22nd in the NFL. So it may depend. This game may depend on what Buffalo Bills team gets off the bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
If all these 3 guys are running, it could be big problems.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Sean. Though I'm curious to see how they're doing it too. The teams I've seen do the whole splitting backs and splitting time between backs well are teams that almost like you take a Brian Westbrook or LaShawn McCoy who can catch, and you can run a different offense with him versus a power back.
Right.
I wonder with our team why it hasn't worked is because basically Morris and Jones are too similar in terms of their style of play.
Right.
So teams don't have to adjust.
Exactly. And looking back on the Thunder and Thunder thing, it seems so obvious that it's a one-dimensional rushing attack.
Right.
Hence the name Thunder and
Exactly.
Thunder.
Yeah.
Perhaps I think we probably got spoiled by that very first game.
Yeah, when they
you said it, Sean. Maybe you called it exactly, Sean. Yeah, I got to give you credit because I think we all just thought, oh, well, here it is. We're going to run all over everybody. The end. It doesn't matter what happened in the first 2 weeks of the season, right?
Not anymore,
The only thing that happens is here and now. Chris Thompson is still hurt. He's got a torn ligament in his shoulder now, which is something that was already surgically repaired once. So he's kind of our change of pace guy.
Right.
He's got a higher yards per carry than the other two guys. And the reason is he doesn't play very much, and so he comes in and he can kind of do some things. But if he's not in there, I think our run game does become pretty one-dimensional, and that may be a problem. My what I've been begging for weeks is that because it's one-dimensional, pick one of the two of those guys for the love of God, please, and let them get rolling. That's I think a huge part of the problem is the team is just not managing its running back rotation very well.
See, I would almost have no problem if they said our plan, if they kind of, and they don't have to say it, but if the plan was basically every week we're going to stick with a different running back and he's the primary guy, and that way you're kind of resting a guy every other week, getting them some relief. But they don't even seem to do that. It doesn't. I don't see any logic to how we're doing it right now. The splitting carries.
No. Well, I think you and everybody but Randy Jordan and Jay Gruden think it's totally illogical.
It's like one guy has a good run, and then it's like it's his show for the rest of the game, even if he doesn't do anything else with it. That's what it seems like to me.
Right, and he doesn't. No one does it.
Right. So I mean, I agree. It's
honestly, it's like they're trying to make the players happy or something. I don't know. I don't know when the happiness of a rookie and a fourth-year running back actually mattered. I swear it's like, they're sitting down with these two guys in the running back room and saying, okay, don't worry, guys, we're going to get you your touches, and it'll be okay. I get the feel, instead of just sitting down and saying, look, this is not working, so either Alfred or Matt, you are our guy, number two guy.
It's either that or it's Jay Gruden just throwing darts in the in the dark, picking a dude out of random. Who knows? But anyways, let's talk a little bit more about the Bills' offense. Now, Steve, I was going to ask you, do you have their team leaders in terms of in terms of their receivers? I'm going to guess it's Watkins.
Well, yeah,
most likely.
Yeah. See, this is what I wanted to mention. Sammy Watkins is balling beyond.
He's on fire.
But Sammy Watkins only has 39 receptions, but he's averaging 18.4 yards per catch.
Right.
And this is related to what Alex is saying about Tyrod Taylor. He does like to go deep. In fact, he throws a pretty decent mid-range deep ball.
Yeah.
And
Sammy
I think they actually lead the league in deep pass touchdowns or something. One of the random videos I watched, some talking head was saying they lead the league in 20-plus yard touchdown passes, or maybe it was 40. I don't remember.
That I don't have that, but I'll take your word for it.
It was some ridiculous stat that they just pulled out, but it was basically they like the deep ball.
But it's not just Sammy Watkins is the problem.
Right.
They've got Robert Woods. He's by number of catches, he's their leading
and nobody
receiver.
talks about him.
He's averaging 11.8 yards per catch, which is more than any of our receivers. And they've got they've got Charles Clay, their tight end, that has 51 receptions. 528 yards. Chris Hogan, who's I think their number 3 wide receiver, he's got almost 400 yards receiving. Averaging 12.4 yards per reception. Here's the point. All of their major receivers are all averaging far more per catch than any of our receivers, including Jordan Reed. But I'm telling you guys, Sammy Watkins, major problem.
Yeah.
We need to hope that Bashaud Breeland is really on his game. And they get some safety help over the top for this guy. This guy, Sammy Watkins, is dangerous. He's my biggest fear is that the run game gets rolling. We have to focus on that. We get lax in the secondary, and all of a sudden you see old Sammy on a post route by himself.
Yeah, that situation could get out of control very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if you're telling me they do a lot of deep ball, this is one of those occasions where the cover 3 actually might be our best friend
to our benefit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Alex, because if you play a cover 3, you really have to have the free safety that kind of gets it and is athletic enough to do it. Because if you run a lot of deep patterns, it's almost a cover 2 is better because a cover 2 is going to split the back half of the field. In the normal cover 2 shell in the Tampa 2, and so that is better if you have safeties that are maybe a little bit less athletic. Hence, we love D'Angelo Hall, but he's getting up there for football years, and he had his torn Achilles. I don't know if he can go chase Sammy Watkins around anymore. So I wonder if this is a game where we may want to see more of a cover 2, or maybe a hybrid, like press man with the corners, because that's really not a cover 2 thing. You kind of drop them back into the flats. Maybe the answer is you play press man to hit Watkins, put Breland on Watkins, hit him at the line of scrimmage, and then have the safeties cover the back half of the field.
Yeah. Well,
maybe that's what you do.
I'm sure Barry's looking at all his options. If there's one thing you can say about how we've been playing of late, Joe Barry's at least been drawing up a pretty good game plan each week the past couple weeks.
Yeah. So then that's something that I was going to ask you guys. If you think, have you gotten the impression so far that Joe Barry really is good at game planning and putting out different styles of defense according to our opponents? Has he been pretty good about that?
Well, I think he's improved over the season a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys might know this about me maybe because, over the year, but I kind of like the numbers. And to me, the proof is in the pudding.
Sure.
How many long, wide open, blown coverages have we seen?
Not very many.
Not, if any, really. I mean, they've given up some touchdowns, but it's by and large because they've been
big
beaten
50-yarder last week. We have 1 or 2 every game.
At least coverage is tighter. Every team does. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing to Alshon Jeffrey. Wasn't really a blown coverage. Alshon Jeffrey beat the corner, and then the safety, which I think was D'Angelo Hall, came over over the top. I'm talking about like the Kobe Fleener
fiasco.
I'm wide open. Yeah, and so Joe Barry, I give him credit. Joe Barry's the coach. He solved that problem.
Yeah, we have not had any Mike Evans, Kobe Fleener situations. It's true.
No,
we haven't. I mean, and again, we're not doing. I mean, we're 24th in passing yards per attempt, so it's not that good, but it's not like the historically awful. Right. And considering the enormity of the injuries we've had in the secondary, we are kind of hanging in there in a way that we haven't. But I just think this Buffalo team has the potential, if they're on and playing well, to put a whole lot of pressure on this defense.
I think we
in
played
a variety of ways.
2 games this year with all our starting corners healthy.
Yeah, that sounds
Is that
about
it?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there?
It hasn't been good.
Has there been any concern with the guys that got dinged up a little bit this past week? I believe that they're all slated to start again and play again, even guys that were out a couple plays.
Well, Jackson was the one everyone was really worried about, right?
Yeah, though we all held our breath when Breland was down for a second too. Though I know he's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you the injury report, the highlights of the injury report here at least. Hatcher and Jackson. Both didn't practice Wednesday, but practiced in a limited capacity today, Thursday. This is when we're recording this. Yeah. It looks like Jackson is going to play. Jerron Johnson has a hamstring problem. Andre Roberts is the big injury concern this week. I mean, and granted, I know tragedy strikes.
No!
He's apparently got a torn meniscus, and if you know anything about meniscus, depending on where it is, it's either a surgical repair or if it's in a particular spot, it doesn't have to be repaired surgically. So I think that's what they're doing with him. But no great loss.
But that probably sounds to me like he'll be done for the season.
Yeah,
he may be done if it's
a surgery.
It's more likely than not with meniscus tears that it's surgically repaired, and if that has to be, then yeah, he's probably going to be done. But Chris Thompson is the other big one with the shoulder.
Yeah.
The issue with him, as I said before, is he's got a torn ligament in his shoulder. And so he's the one that's the concern. The rest of these guys, Ryan Grant, abdomen, no big deal. D. Hall is on the list every week with his toe for some reason. Goldston's on the list every week. Trent Williams is usually on the list every week. Those guys are going to play. The problem children are Jackson, who it looks like he's going to play, and then Chris Thompson. With
I mean, Jackson.
The rest of these guys are
Jackson not practicing. That means nothing at this point. I feel like it would be easier to say.
But he did practice today.
It'd be easier to say when he does practice, because that's like a handful of times.
I get the feeling he's kind of got the Allen Iverson, practice. We're talking about practice
he definitely
thing
does.
to him.
Right.
My thing about Jackson is I don't worry about him practicing. I just want to make, like, when we see him on the field, we'll know right away, is he able to run deep or not?
Yeah.
Right.
Because if he doesn't have his speed,
might as well not have him out
there.
there
100 times.
Right.
Yeah.
The Bills do have a couple of important guys on the injury list. Hard to tell exactly how injured they really are.
Right.
Mario Williams is on the list with an illness. Didn't practice. I assume he'll probably be healthy. Carlos
Do we know
Williams.
What the illness was?
Yeah, hungover probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Would be my guess. Yeah, he flu-like symptoms. Right.
Right.
Probably so. But Carlos Williams, who I was talking about earlier, he's just been tearing up the league. He's been hurt. He's still on the injury list. He's the guy who may not play for the Bills.
I've never heard of the guy that they promoted in his place, and I'd much rather face him.
Yeah, there's probably a reason you never heard of him before.
Right. And I heard Bakari Rambo is probably out.
Oh, damn it. I wanted to be the one to tell our viewers that Bakari Rambo was on this team.
Sorry.
Wait a minute. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Hold on. Let's pretend it didn't happen.
Right.
Sean, do you know anything about Bakari Rambo's status?
Ladies and gentlemen, Bakari Rambo is going to be our opponent this week. Woohoo! Aren't you excited to see Kirk Cousins blow up Bakari Rambo's spot? I can't wait.
I would be if he did not have a knee problem and he actually practiced Thursday, which he did not.
They're going to be hurting without him.
Hey, our friend Mark Bullock with the Post wrote up a breakdown of Rambo's play this year.
Right.
No, I know.
Better.
I was going to say,
really
and I'm being very jestful, but he's actually improved.
You're being facetious. Yeah. It's a very Redskins thing, right? To have a guy we just discard on the trash heap, and he goes out, and all of a sudden he's
you have to look at all those guys and think, man, were they that bad, or was Haslett really just a dunce? It's so many things.
There's one more factor, because they were talking about this on the Grand Danny Show, because I was listening to that today.
With our best friend, Danny Rouillet. Shout out.
Yes, with our new best friend, Danny Rouillet. Just like, we have so many new best friends. By the way, that was our 10th interview, guys. I hope you...
Double digits. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, 10 in our first season. That's not bad.
That's awesome.
And we've got some others coming up, for the audience. So we are planning some exciting stuff for the end of the year if it works out. So we need to hold it, in abeyance. At a very minimum, we may get a couple guys back on to wrap up the season.
Sure.
I think at least.
Hey, look at us go, guys.
So anyway, the last thing is that they had mentioned when it comes to Rambo and David Amerson's apparently playing well in Oakland somehow. It could just be.
How is that possible?
It could be a system thing. They just don't. They didn't fit whatever systems we were running here, and the style of play that the Bills run or the Raiders run just works for them better.
But
and then there was the last option of getting kicked in the teeth and getting fired and realizing you blew millions of dollars in your career already.
That'll light a fire under your ass.
Maybe our coaches stunk.
Well, it could. I really think Haslett just stinks, but
it might not have been. Haslett wasn't the secondary coach. Raheem Morris, and I've forgotten who the guy was behind Morris, who they got rid of. We've had a string of them.
Well, Morris would have been both those guys.
Morris, but somebody was with Shanahan before Morris, and I can't remember who it was. I don't know if I even want to relive it because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't really want to you guys didn't get Rouillet to do his Shanahan rant.
We asked him at the end, but I think he backed out of it.
Right? Yeah, that is one thing. The Rouillet interview. You guys talk about some stuff that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I really was looking forward to hear him just rage on Mike Shanahan.
We gave him that open. Alex made it clear we wanted him to do it.
We gave him the open in the very end and said if you ever want to come back on and do it, you can. And I don't want to get into what
he was trying to stay in a good mood for Star Wars tomorrow. That's what he was trying to say.
Because Shanahan is a frequent guest of 106.7, if I recall, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
So I don't think I think we
that
can.
That was kind
him,
of mentioned as a reason why, even though he wants to do it, he won't do it.
Yeah, he frequently is on their show, I think. Well, let's talk about. We got to do score predictions. We've also got to talk a little bit about. For like 2 minutes, we've got to at least talk about the NFC East matchups coming up this week and how the rest of the season is going to shake out for these teams. But anything else, Bills, Redskins wise, before we do score predictions?
No, I think we've covered it. Redskin offense wise, we need to run the ball a little bit. Kirk needs to not freak out. And, we need to keep a smooth running offense. And defensively, it's stop the run, keep Tyrod Taylor in the pocket. If we do all those things, we have a shot. Yep. If we don't, it could be one of those games that goes unintentionally ugly.
Right. Exactly. Which is always a threat. So what's your prediction? What's your score prediction then?
Oh, God. See, I'm always so negative. And
if
you go ahead, Alex. I'm still thinking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Here's what I'm thinking it's going to be. I think we will be competitive the whole game. But in our very hog-sized tradition of never wanting to get too happy, I'm going to say they score late, we lose 28-24.
Yeah, I think we've had too much of a good thing recently. I think I'm gonna unfortunately predict a loss too, because like you, I'm still a Redskin fan, and I've still been a Redskin fan for the past 20 years, which means I'm very gun shy about this team doing well. When they want to do well. So I'm going to predict that we kind of lay an egg in this one.
Man.
And it's like 24-14.
Oh, man. So I'm going to I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to say the Redskins finally pull off a back-to-back win. And I say this because this is a winnable game for us. The other two important matchups in the NFC East are much tougher, so we've got to get this one. It would be so huge if we did. I think we finally realize that and do what we need to do. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be competitive, so I'm going to say another field goal win, 24-21 Redskins at home. Because thank God we play well at home, guys. Sometimes.
Yeah, we do
Let's
play well
hope
at home.
you're right.
And I feel like we win every game 24-21 when we do win.
Right. It sounds like a Redskin score.
Let's hope you're right and Alex and I are wrong.
Let's hope.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
I would love to be wrong. I just, I'm so used to being heartbroken.
Sean, you're right about one thing though. It's the Giants and the Eagles both have potential losses on the horizon. The Giants have Carolina, undefeated 13-0 Carolina. And the Eagles have the Cardinals,
who are not undefeated, but they're close to undefeated. They've only lost twice, right?
No,
I mean,
yeah,
most
but
people
the problem
say
is
the Cardinals are the second best team in the NFC. So.
I think, score-wise, definitely.
But the Cardinals are traveling to Philadelphia across 3 time zones, for the early 1 p.m. start. So that is tough on West Coast teams. And so if the the Eagles have a hope, that's it. And the Eagles just beat the Patriots last week.
Yeah.
See, if the Cardinals were smart, they would have traveled early,
Maybe they have.
I don't follow them enough to know. I mean, Bruce Arians could always just go to Temple and say, hey, I want to use your field. He's kind of a legend up at Temple, so they'd let him practice there.
They might have. I don't know. But the point is, certainly I think the Giants and the Eagles will be underdogs and should be in both of those games. And so this is a game where the Redskins have at least a beatable team.
Right.
The Bills, as we've talked about, have their talent and all that, but they are sub 500. They're in the exact same boat we are. So we have a much better chance of beating the Bills than the Giants and the Eagles do winning
That's
their
right.
games.
And if the Cowboys lose this week and like 2 of us win, they're pretty damn close to out of it completely. I mean, I guess we could still implode and they could catch back up, but they couldn't lose again. They can maybe lose one more, and they still need most of us to lose 2.
I'm not sure if that's right, Sean. I think if any team gets to 7 wins, the Cowboys are out. Don't they have 10 losses?
Is it that?
I told you guys before.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I know.
All we need to do is the Redskins need to win, and the rest of that will take care of itself.
See, I'm so used to not focusing on the Redskins at this point in the season that I can't help but focus on other teams.
And don't forget the little factoid I mentioned in our last show. If the Redskins and Giants both somehow win out, they both potentially are in the playoffs.
Right. Which is cool.
As absurd as that is.
That's kind of cool.
It's unbelievable. Is what
I'm down for that.
And I would love to see it just to, kind of as an FU.
Throw the NFL for a loop.
Though it's so crazy to think.
See the talking heads on ESPN freak out over the absurdity of the NFL playoff system.
Right.
Well, it's always been absurd.
How dare 2 9-17 teams make it?
Well, there's probably a possibility where a 7-9 Redskins, Eagles, or Giants team will host a playoff game against a wild card team that's like 10-6.
Yes,
I bet you that's
very
possible.
likely to happen. There's also a very likely chance that you'll see that in the AFC South too. So
yeah,
absolutely,
and the AFC South too. Is that what you just said? AFC
I mean,
South?
they are just the NFC East of the AFC. It's almost exactly the same scores even.
They may be worse. Yeah, I think.
Are they worse? Okay, so this is actually the last thing I want to do. I know we got to go, so we should wrap up. But it's just funny to think. I mean, why not do a quick update on the leaders of the NFC and the AFC. So in the NFC, obviously you have us up top in the East, the Cardinals sitting up there, the Packers, though they do not have a commanding lead at only 9-4, and then the Panthers undefeated 13-0.
Yeah.
AFC wise, it's
Yeah.
like the usual. I mean, it's sort of the usual suspects: the Patriots and the Broncos, and then you have the Bengals and the Colts. So there's some fresh blood in there, but it's not altogether that different,
No.
than years past.
I mean, the Patriots are going to be in there until Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are gone. We all know that. So
Right. That's just perpetual.
The Patriots have got like everybody injured though.
Yeah,
There
that's
isn't
true.
anybody that's not injured on that team right now.
Yeah. I would love it to see two different teams make it to the Super Bowl this year from last year.
I agree. That's
I'd
all that
rather
I
not
ask
see
for.
Yeah.
Can
Change
we
it
not
up.
have the Patriots? How about that? I'll just
Yeah.
settle for just that.
Well, I
No
don't want
Patriots.
Seattle in there either. I'm not a fan of Seattle. So
I don't think there's very many Redskin fans that are, considering they've beat us like the last 3 times we've been in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah,
At least
yeah,
twice.
something like that.
And the whole
At least
the
twice.
whole Richard Sherman Trent Williams thing and
Well, and the
they
whole
suck.
they ruined the career of Robert
This is
Griffin.
true. They destroyed our quarterback.
and the general annoyingness of their fans and a lot of things.
Yeah. They
Everything
crushed my
else.
soul.
Yeah.
That's another thing I take personally.
I
Yeah.
like Richard. I like
Starbucks
Wilson.
is terrible.
Russell Wilson, I think, is a good quarterback. I like the guy. Hey, sue me.
No, I would agree with you on Russell Wilson, but
Good guy, good
Yeah.
quarterback.
Pete Carroll, no.
Yeah. He can take
No.
his gum chewing ass to Timbuktu for all I care. But anyways,
And with that,
all right. So I guess we could break it there. We will be back, obviously, with you for the game recap, talking some Buffalo Bills, Washington Redskins game. So hopefully we have good stuff to say there. Once again, check out our interview yesterday with Danny Rouillet. It was really cool. You can check it out up on the website. And in that case, guess we'll see you soon.
All right.
Take care.